We have the reappearance of our witness, Judge Walter Heen. And Judge Heen, I'm going to remind you that the testimony you're about to give continues under the oath you took earlier to tell the truth. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Kealoha, your turn to cross-examine.
Aloha, Judge Heen.
Aloha.
Thank you for being here today. Just to warn you, I'm not a legal professional, so I intend to respectfully and hopefully be guided through if I do something wrong. So mahalo for everyone's patience. Have you ever, being the first director of the Mauna Kea, the Office of Mauna Kea Management, have you ever seen a title to these lands?
Have I ever seen the title? No.
Do you know if a title exists to these lands for the state of Hawaii?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hope this is a proper question, but what provides the jurisdiction of the Office of Mauna Kea Management?
Objection. Vague. Legal calls for legal conclusion.
It comes within
Sustained.
I'm sorry.
In your non-legal opinion, what provides jurisdiction to the Office of Mauna Kea Management?
Objection. Vague.
Judge, do you understand the question?
I didn't hear it.
Would you repeat the question, please?
In your non-legal opinion, I guess is the proper way to ask, what provides the Office of Mauna Kea Management jurisdiction over the summit lands?
The University of Hawaii's control over the operations of the astronomy up in Mauna Kea.
The University of Hawaii delegates a certain amount of jurisdiction to the Office of Mauna Kea Management. Is that right?
Yeah, but the jurisdiction is limited with respect to what Mauna Kea management can do.
Mm-hmm. And if it's proper to ask, what gives the University of Hawaii the right to delegate that authority?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question fully.
I'm sorry, I talked too fast. If it's okay to ask, what gives the University of Hawaii, what gives the University of Hawaii the right to delegate that authority?
Well, the University of Hawaii has a lease to the summit of Mauna Kea from the state of Hawaii.
Is it from the state of Hawaii or the DLNR? Are they one and the same?
Yes.
Okay. And now I'm going to ask a consequent question. In your non-legal opinion, what gives the state of Hawaii that right?
Objection. Irrelevant. Outside
Sustained.
the scope.
Where are we going?
Well, if there's an entity that is managing lands, and the delegation of authority, to me, should be clear. Is that not pertinent?
Well, I think I've already made a ruling on whether or not, what the material issues are for this contested case hearing, right?
Does that extend to the right to even be there exerting authority?
Yes, because I think I specifically excluded certain things in my minute order. I can't off the top of my head give you the number of the minute order, but I was pretty clear about what's going to be issues in this case.
Well, I guess
and more importantly, I think you are now number 5.
I'm not arguing a kingdom issue or international law or anything from the I just want to know what provides authority.
Right, and that's kind of where the others were going as well, challenging the authority of the state or whatever else.
I just kind of want to see a land title, actually.
Maybe this isn't the witness to do it with.
I don't know, so I thought I'd ask. Okay, so move on. Is that what you're asking?
Please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Did the University of Hawaii in particular solicit you to testify here today?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Am I too close? Sorry. Did the University of Hawaii in particular solicit you to testify here today?
No.
How did your participation to testify, who solicited you to testify here?
Office of Mauna Kea Management, actually.
Okay. Are they a subsidiary of the University of Hawaii?
Are they what? A subsidiary, did you say? Yeah. You might say that.
Of the university. Do the funds that support the Office of Mauna Kea Management come from public funds?
Yeah.
Do they also come from, what other sources do the funding come from?
No other sources that I know of.
Do the telescopes contribute?
Not that I'm aware of.
Who called you from the Office of Mauna Kea Management in particular?
Stephanie Nagata.
Are you receiving any pay, stipend, accommodation for testifying today?
They're paying my airfare.
Mahalo. Are you currently employed by the University of Hawaii or the Office of Mauna Kea Management in any way?
No.
Do you receive a retirement fund from?
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone ask you to restrict your written direct testimony to certain topics?
No.
Were there any suggestions made for the topics?
No.
Is the Office of Mauna Kea Management considered a public institution?
Yeah.
Mahalo. And I hope this doesn't seem disrespectful, but I was just confused as to why there's so many questions that you weren't able to answer, or didn't know, or weren't able. And maybe I need a little guidance. Tell me if it's not proper. But what kind of questions should we be asking you, if not these questions about jurisdiction or cases you've been involved with? What kind of questions should we be asking you? Is that a proper question?
I would object as overbroad, and the scope of direct sets forth his testimony area.
Yeah, Mr. Kilo, I think I explained earlier that the witness is here to answer questions about his written direct testimony, which everybody got a long time ago.
Yes,
So those would be the questions that he's here to answer. But also, if you want to challenge his credibility, you want to try and impeach, those are all appropriate areas of cross-examination as well.
Okay, then I'm going to ask some questions that might be, I'm not sure. You say in your testimony that, and it's acknowledged, that you're a retired judge of the Hawaii State Intermediate Court of Appeals. Do you recall, and are you familiar with, the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, quo warranto, and demand for jurisdiction?
Objection outside the scope. Irrelevant.
Where are we going with this, Mr. Kealoha?
I would like to clarify his expertise and well, not expertise, maybe his personal and professional, I don't know, in fact, professional, yeah, opinion.
So you want to know what he knows about the Fourth Amendment, or if he knows the Fourth Amendment?
Yes, and whether or not it applies here.
And then are you asking a legal question?
Not necessarily.
Whether or not the Fourth Amendment applies here?
I don't know. Are you telling me I am? Then I am.
Would seem that way to me. It's not that this witness could not, in some capacity, answer that question, but he cannot answer that broad question given the limited scope of his written direct testimony and, more importantly, without a lot more information.
Well, I would hope that he would tell us if he couldn't. And I don't understand what you mean. It's not in his direct testimony when all the judges are required to uphold the Constitution in an oath. Isn't that right?
If you called me up or asked me today, does my situation, my home situation in Nanakuli, does the Fourth Amendment apply? I wouldn't be able to answer you. I know what the Fourth Amendment is, but I need more facts to be able to give you a correct answer. That's the situation here with Judge Heen. So I'm trying to use an example so you can see how asking the question so broadly without more specific information, and especially material to this contested case hearing, is not a question that he can answer.
Can I tell you what I want to ask in the end of that? And
Okay.
You can tell me. I wanted to ask if the Fourth Amendment demand for jurisdiction is a right we can invoke here in a contested hearing.
So you're asking a lawyer for his legal opinion.
I'm asking a retired judge, I thought. Oh, okay, you're telling me no? I'll move on.
Okay. Please, thank you for your understanding. Please move on.
Okay. Just hard to understand, but thank you. Thank you for your patience again, everyone. In your written direct testimony, Judge Heen, you used the term contentious public hearings, and I don't know if this part of it has been addressed, but have you described this contention to us, and can you?
I'm sorry, what part of my testimony are you referring to?
Second paragraph, first sentence,
What page?
page 1.
Page 1, second paragraph?
You used the term contentious public hearings.
Oh, okay.
Could you go into a little bit of detail of how they were contentious?
Well, if you've lived on the Big Island for as long as you may have, some of the people here have, you will know that in that period of time when it was first proposed to put telescopes on Mauna Kea, public hearings were held in various parts of the island, and the people in general protested against it. I can't tell you exactly what was said or done, but it was written up in all the newspapers, shown on TV.
I was about barely 20 at the time. Do you recall any one, maybe any kind of protest in particular? I know you said you can't tell me all of them, but any one particular protest?
No, I can't.
Second paragraph, also first sentence, you state that the 2000 master plan was adopted to provide for local oversight of observatory development within the science reserve on Mauna Kea.
Yep.
With all the issues that maybe I can only speak for what I know today, what we've brought up today, like Lanny spoke of some of those issues, Mihana tried to address some of those issues, everybody did. Concerns about further building or the previous foundation of what is running the summit of Mauna Kea today. Were these, I can't even ask you that. With all the contention, why was the master plan approved?
Well, the master plan was approved to try to establish a controlled, regulated management program for the University of Hawaii on Mauna Kea.
The next sentence is Hawaii island-based over. Oh, sorry, just a second. Okay, move back.
Yeah.
Were neighbor island descendants of Poliahu and Lilinois even considered in this overseeing or management?
I'm sorry, I did not hear your question.
Were descendants of okay, are you aware of the percentages and Aumakua, Poliahu, and Lilinois. Have you heard of them?
Am I aware of them? Yes.
Okay. Were descendants of these personages considered, descendants living on neighbor islands, considered in this management plan? I mean, and yeah.
In the management plan, I don't know.
What is your understanding of those two personages?
My understanding of what?
Poliahu and Lilinois, please.
They're the goddesses of Mauna Kea.
It says in the next sentence in the same paragraph that another demand of the public hearings was that Native Hawaiians have unrestricted access to Mauna Kea. Wait, I'm sorry, can I retract that? I meant to say the next sentence I wanted to consider was Hawaii island-based oversight was an insistent demand coming from the public hearings. With that in mind, I'm not sure if I already asked this, but I don't think I did. Were neighbor island descendants or practitioners of the Mauna considered at all?
Not that I can recall.
Do you know, are you aware that the only erected heiau to Poliahu is on Kauai?
No, I'm not.
The next sentence says another demand of the public hearings was that Native Hawaiians have unrestricted access to Mauna Kea. And the following sentence says OMKM, Office of Mauna Kea Management, was established in response to those demands. My question is, how has the Office of Mauna Kea Management responded to unrestricted access to Mauna Kea?
Well, as far as I know, they've continued to allow unrestricted access with respect to reasonable use of the mountain, and in order to prevent destruction and damage to the resources on the mountain.
Would you say that monitoring women in peaceful prayer being arrested in the dark of night is offering unrestricted access to the Mauna?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Would you say that monitoring for the Office of Mauna Kea Management, monitoring wahine in peaceful protests being arrested in the dark of night, would you consider that providing unrestricted access to Mauna Kea?
Argumentative, lacks foundation.
Could you set the foundation, please?
Are you aware, sir, that some of our protectors were arrested, wahines, in the dark of night?
No, I'm not.
Would you consider, whether you know or have seen that or not, the action of Office of Mauna Kea Management monitoring that kind of event, providing unrestricted access to Mauna Kea?
If strictly monitoring, yeah.
Do you think that fits, I think this is the right word, is it purview of providing unrestricted access to any area?
I think it is within the purview with respect to preventing damage to the environment of Mauna Kea.
What kind of damage would you be speaking
I
of?
have no idea.
Why do you feel that way?
Well, because human beings are such persons that they can cause destruction and damage to geographical areas, even sacred areas.
Even in peaceful prayer?
I'm sorry?
Even during peaceful prayer?
I don't know. That's another part of the question.
Thank you. Did you say earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you did not know if the community or anyone expressed that Mauna Kea was sacred during your tenure there?
I don't recall stating that, no.
Did you know during your tenure there that Mauna Kea was held sacred by individuals and maybe even many people?
Well, I'm aware, yeah, that many, if not most, if not all, the people of Hawaiian people on the island consider Mauna Kea sacred.
Thank you. Is requiring a permit, the Office of Mauna Kea, in regards to the Office of Mauna Kea Management, is requiring a permit to erect sacred structure considered, this might be argument. Would you consider that unrestricted access?
Well, I don't think you can so broadly construe the term unrestricted access to include unrestricted activities on the mountain that might alter the terrain or the native environment.
So, besides those 2 points of altering the terrain or the environment, do you think a permitting process is fulfilling the purpose of unrestricted access?
Yes, I do.
Mahalo. The intent, in the interest of the intent and the result, do you think that Office of Mauna Kea Management establishment provides for unrestricted access to the Mauna Kea, to Mauna Kea currently?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the current operation of the mountain and the Office of Mauna Kea Management.
During your tenure, how did you employ policies or anything to ensure that unrestricted access was afforded?
Well, we just continued the policies that had been in place. Nobody was really trying to restrict access for anyone at that time, and there was no real increased demand for access to the mountain. No demand such as there is now.
Is that is your statement from constant monitoring of the area, or maybe, or from?
I'm only telling you my experience at the time.
How did you monitor that access to the Mauna during your time?
As I recall, we had care officers, and we had a couple of employees that spent most of the time up on Mauna Kea.
Is it possible that practitioners were accessing the Mauna without the knowledge of care and your officials?
I suppose it's possible.
Just a second. In the third paragraph on the first page, second sentence, you state, our subsequent planning was consistent with the legal framework set out by the Hawaii Supreme Court. Would you give us a brief description of the term legal framework that you're using here?
Not now.
Okay, mahalo. No, I understand. In the same sentence, our subsequent planning was consistent with the legal framework set out by the Hawaii Supreme Court for identifying cultural and natural resources, what are some of those cultural resources that you're talking about?
Well, to begin with, the entire mountain is a cultural resource. And it was important to find out if there were particular areas or sites on the mountain that were also of cultural import.
How did you, wait just a second, sorry. And you might have asked this question earlier, but I don't recall. Someone might have asked this question earlier, but I don't recall. How did you go about identifying those cultural resources in particular?
My recollection is that we relied quite heavily on the Mauna Kea Management Board. The Kahuku Council.
And how many people were on the council at the time?
I think 10. I'm not really sure.
Do you know if they took it upon themselves or outreached?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know if they researched this information themselves?
They lived there. They frequented the mountain quite often.
Did they outreach?
Mr. Stevens, who was the leader of that group, went up to the mountain almost every day.
Are you aware of community outreach to others?
Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm not aware of any specific activity in that regard.
In your tenure, how was Kahuku Mauna members appointed or selected or
They were appointed by the director of the Office of Mauna Kea Management at the recommendation of members of the Kahuku Mauna. When a vacancy occurred, they would recommend an appointment replacement.
And you're talking about yourself being the director.
What?
You're the director of the Office of Mauna Kea Management.
I was, yeah.
So you appointed them at the time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did any of them bring up for concern neighbor island descendants of cultural practices in the Mauna?
Not that I can recall.
Did any of them bring up concerns of burial grounds?
Of what?
Burial grounds on the Mauna?
Not that I can recall.
Did any of them claim to have individual burials on the Mauna?
Not that I can recall.
Are you aware that the Mauna has historically been burial grounds for Native Hawaiians?
No, I'm not aware.
Nobody brought that up?
Not that I can recall.
Was there anything set in place to address issues that might not have come up in the initial foundation of the Mauna Kea Management, Office of Mauna Kea Management?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question.
Were there any processes set up by the Office of Mauna Kea Management to address issues such as possibly unknown things like burials and burial grounds in the Mauna?
Not at the time.
Are there processes set up now that address this?
I don't know.
Thank you. Are you aware of burials ever being found on the Mauna?
Am I aware of what?
Are you aware of burials ever being found on the Mauna? Sorry.
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of recent laws in 2015 decriminalizing the preparation of the Hawaiian body for burial?
No.
Mahalo. You use the term potential impacts, assessing potential impacts in the same sentence to those resources by existing and proposed uses and considering feasible measures. And we'll stop right there. Potential impacts, could you detail that term? What kind of potential impacts do you mean?
Well, the term is really all-encompassing. You can't describe now for something that's potentially going to happen.
If they were to potentially verify burials and burial grounds in the mountain, would that be potential impacts?
I don't know.
Do you have any traditional and ancient burials in your family that you know about?
Well, I'm sure we do, but I don't know about them. My grandfather was born on Mauna Kea. I'm sure they've got some over there.
What were the measures employed in that same sentence to mitigate potential impacts, again, besides Mauna Kea management team being founded?
I'm afraid I can't tell you right now. I can't remember.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kealoha.